What if everything you thought about yourself was wrong? Maria had always believed that hard work and perseverance would be enough, that if she dressed well, spoke properly, and acted with confidence, the world would treat her fairly. She had spent years building herself up, creating a version of herself that exuded elegance and sophistication. But today, in the heart of an upscale fashion boutique in Manhattan, she was learning a painful truth. The moment she walked in, she felt it. The glances from the sales associates, the subtle shift in their expressions. She had seen this look before, the one that measured her worth in assumptions rather than in reality. Maria adjusted the sleeve of her silk blouse, smoothing out an invisible wrinkle, and walked deeper into the store. A mannequin in the center showcased a breathtaking Givenchy dress, midnight blue, sleek, powerful. The kind of dress that whispered success. Maria had been saving for months to buy something special for her anniversary dinner. She had pictured the moment, walking into the restaurant, her husband Theo's eyes lighting up, as he saw her in a dress that made her feel unstoppable. But as she reached for the fabric, a voice cut through her thoughts. That dress is very expensive. Maria turned to see a sales associate, a tall woman with sharp cheekbones and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her name tag read Victoria asterisk. Maria kept her tone light. I know. Victoria didn't move. Maybe I can show you something more. In your budget. There it was, the assumption. The judgment wrapped in fake politeness. Maria took a breath. She had faced this before. She could ignore it. She could prove herself. I'd like to try it on, she said. Victoria hesitated. This dress requires pre-approval. We don't usually let customers try it on unless I'll be purchasing it today. Maria cut her off. Victoria's eyes flickered with something close to irritation. She gave a tight smile and gestured toward the dressing rooms. Maria held her head high as she walked toward the fitting area. But the moment she stepped inside, she heard it. A whisper, a quiet laugh, then a murmur, just loud enough for her to catch the words. She's not actually going to buy it. Maria's stomach tightened. She had spent years proving people wrong. She had fought for every opportunity, worked twice as hard to be taken seriously. But here she was, in a store where the price of a dress was being used as a barrier to remind her that, in their eyes, she didn't belong. As she slipped into the dress, she examined herself in the mirror. The fabric hugged her frame perfectly, the deep blue highlighting her warm complexion. She looked powerful. She felt powerful. Then she stepped out. The room went silent. Victoria blinked, her mouth parting slightly. It was clear she hadn't expected Maria to own the dress the way she did. For a moment, Maria felt victorious. But then another voice interrupted. I'm sorry, said another associate, a man this time, standing near the counter. We have a policy. We need proof of funds before finalizing high-ticket purchases. Maria's breath caught in her throat. Proof of funds. She had never been asked for that before, and she had seen other women in this store, women who looked different than her, try on dresses without anyone questioning their ability to pay. A heat rose in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. Are you asking everyone that, or just me? The man hesitated, glancing toward Victoria. She said nothing. Maria felt the weight of years of microaggressions, of polite discrimination hidden under customer service smiles. And for the first time in a long time, she felt exhausted. She turned, walking back into the fitting room. As she reached for her phone, her hands shook slightly. She typed out a message to Theo. Come to the store, now. Maria wasn't just going to prove them wrong, she was going to make them regret ever doubting her. Theo arrived in less than 15 minutes. Maria had barely changed back into her clothes when she heard his voice. Deep, controlled, unmistakably authoritative. Where is the manager? The boutique had gone eerily quiet. Customers glanced up from their browsing. A few sales associates exchanged uncertain looks. Maria stepped out of the dressing room just in time to see a short, impeccably dressed man approaching Theo with a rehearsed smile. His name tag read Elliot, store manager. Sir, is there a problem? Theo didn't blink. Yes, my wife was asked for proof of funds before she could purchase a dress. I'd like to know if that's store policy or just selective enforcement. Elliot's smile faltered slightly. I can assure you, sir, we apply our policies fairly. Theo crossed his arms. Do you? Because I see customers shopping freely without being asked to prove anything. He gestured toward a well-dressed blonde woman across the room, holding an armful of designer pieces. Has she been asked to verify her funds? Elliot's mouth opened, then closed. Maria had seen this before, the moment when people realized they were caught. Sir, I don't believe this is necessary, Elliot started, but Theo cut him off. Let me introduce myself properly, Theo said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a sleek silver business card. He held it up between two fingers, letting the embossed letters catch the light. Theo Carter, civil rights attorney. Victoria, the sales associate, stiffened. Elliot swallowed. Theo continued, his voice razor sharp. My wife is not just an accomplished businesswoman, but she is also the type of person who gives people the benefit of the doubt. But I am not. He took a step closer. So, let's be very clear about what's happening here. You didn't ask for proof of funds because it's policy. You asked because you assume my wife couldn't afford to shop here, and that's discrimination. Elliot raised his hands in defense. Sir, Theo held up a finger. I'm not done. The room was silent. Even the other customers seemed to be holding their breath. Do you know what I do for a living? Theo continued. I take cases exactly like this, and I win. Elliot's forehead glistened with sweat. Theo turned to Maria, his voice softening slightly. Do you still want the dress? Maria looked at the Givenchy piece still hanging near the register. It was stunning, but suddenly she didn't want it anymore. Not like this. She met Theo's eyes. No. Theo nodded. Then, turning back to Elliot, he said, In that case, I'd like the names of every employee who was involved in this. Elliot's face paled. Sir, please, there's no need for this to escalate. Oh, but there is. Theo's voice was calm, but the weight behind it was undeniable. This isn't just about my wife. It's about every person who walks into this store and gets treated differently because of how they look. Elliot turned to Victoria, who suddenly seemed very interested in adjusting a rack of handbags. You want to resolve this quietly? Theo asked. Then here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to my wife, publicly, in front of your staff and every customer in this store. And then you're going to implement real change, starting with retraining your employees. Elliot hesitated, but the weight of the room was pressing down on him. He could feel it. Their mistake had been seen, exposed. And Theo Carter wasn't the kind of man you ignored. Slowly, stiffly, Elliot turned toward Maria. I apologize for the way you were treated, he said, his voice forced. It was inappropriate. Maria studied him for a moment. It wasn't a real apology, not yet, but she wasn't done with them either. Maria let the silence stretch. She had spent her life knowing when an apology was genuine and when it was given only to avoid consequences. This was the latter. She glanced at Theo, whose arms remained crossed, his expression unreadable. Then she turned to the other customers, some pretending not to stare, others openly watching. Then she spoke. An apology isn't words, she said, her voice steady but firm. It's what you do next. Elliot swallowed hard, shifting on his feet. The store still felt frozen, as if everyone was waiting for something to happen. Maria took a slow step forward. How many people have walked into this store and been treated the way I was today? How many walked out humiliated, but without a lawyer to stand up for them? Elliot had no answer. Maria exhaled softly. You want to make this right? Prove it. Elliot nodded stiffly. We will review our training policies. Theo cut in, his voice level but laced with warning. You'll do more than that. You'll ensure it never happens again. Or I'll make sure the whole world knows about it. Elliot's expression tightened. He knew what that meant. A viral lawsuit. A media storm. The kind of bad publicity that no high-end boutique could afford. Finally, he exhaled sharply. I understand. Theo held his gaze for a beat longer, making sure the message had landed, before turning back to Maria. You ready to go? Maria looked one last time at the dress, at the store, at the employees who had all played their parts in this moment. She nodded. Yeah, let's go. Theo placed his hand on the small of her back as they walked toward the exit. As they passed by the other customers, Maria caught the eye of a young black woman standing near a rack of dresses. She looked unsure, hesitant. Maria gave her a small, knowing nod, a silent message. You belong here too. As they stepped out onto the busy street, the crisp air filling Maria's lungs, she felt something unexpected. Not anger, not bitterness, but a deep, unshakable sense of clarity. She didn't need their dress, their approval, their apology. She had power, and she would use it. Thank you for watching this video. Now tell me in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, how powerful was this story? Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next stories will be even better.